Hey, everybody, welcome to FF Uncensored. Today, we are talking about how to cook for one person.
So, I am not one person. So this will all be this will all be like hypotheticals. So if you are one person that cooks for one person, we'd love to hear your comments on this episode about cooking for one person. So,
I have definitely cooked for one person, especially when Zach was on the road. So I am familiar with cooking for one person. I don't currently have to do it. How about we just give some best practices or stuff that we would do that works really well um, or we like? Um,
I don't necessarily think, and maybe we should talk about what maybe the differences are between one person and cooking for multiple people, because we've talked about cooking for multiple people a bunch of times, right? And I
yep.
think there's a lot of similarities, like there's going to be a lot of crossover, that kind of stuff.
Yep.
So what would you say the differences are, or what someone should be thinking about if they are only cooking for one?
Well, I'm definitely going to say that we kind of talked about it last week, and on like the bulk meal, like the meal prepping kind of stuff, is we're not cooking recipes, we're cooking ingredients to then make meals. And I think that's where a lot of people go wrong when they're cooking for a single person. They're trying to follow recipes and all of that stuff. And then they're stuck with leftovers of some meal that serves like 17 different meals for them. And that just becomes really not fun to be eating the same stuff over and over and over again. So I think the biggest one is like prepping ingredients that you can use and then remake a bunch of meals with is definitely one of the big ones that I see. Um, what you got?
I was going to say, just to kind of like expand on that. The benefit of just prepping a bunch of ingredients allows you variety, right? Versus when you make a recipe, you're kind of stuck with said recipe. So that's actually one of the reasons why we talked about this last week too, is like I think prepping a bunch of ingredients that could be used in a number of ways is an easy way to prep once, but be really versatile in what you make. And then you get out of this, I don't like eating the same thing over and over again. Cool. Chicken with salsa and chicken with red hot and chicken with barbecue sauce are three completely different chicken recipes, but I only had to prepare chicken once.
Yeah, and I think that's like you can totally cook a recipe if it's one of those meals that you can eat over and over again. I'd also say you can cook a recipe if it's something you're cool with freezing and pulling out at a later date to reheat one or two more times. Um, but if you have an issue, eat like I wouldn't buy something that I couldn't eat on repeat or reuse. So like I'll just use a roast for example. Like you live alone and you're gonna buy a pork roast or a beef roast and you're gonna cook it. How are you gonna cook it to make it to eat it a bunch of meals? Because if you're and then what size portion are you buying? Are you buying a 2 pound roast or are you buying a 5 pound roast? Those are two very different things when you are a single person eating alone, and how many meals that's going to equate to. So just portion out what you're actually going to eat. I mean, I also do love like I do love to make stuff in bulk. Like soups are one of my favorite. I always make them in large amounts, even if I'm going to be the only person eating this soup, like a chicken enchilada soup. I would be the only person eating at my house. I will put it in mason jars, let it cool, put some lids on, and pop them in the freezer. And then I have individual servings to pull out later to eat a meal as well. So like you could still bulk cook a recipe, but you have to be able to store it to be able to eat it because obviously I'm not going to eat soup every single day for every single meal for a questionable amount of time.
Right. And I think another thing to think about too, and this is just for cooking for one, is if you're only taking care of yourself, you probably have a tendency to make concessions a little bit more than if you were also caring for others. And so, hear me out with this. So, if you're by yourself, you probably have more of a tendency to potentially eat out, potentially be like, screw it, I'll just have popcorn tonight because I don't have time, right? Versus if you were maybe preparing for a family, you would just suck it up and make it happen. And so, a nice framework of this is if you were under your own care, meaning you were outside of yourself and you were taking care of yourself, how would you behave, or what choices would you make? Right. This is actually a concept from the 12 Rules of Life by and by blanking on his first name, Peterson, the psychologist. Just Google it quick.
I am. I'm looking for it right now. Jordan Peterson.
Jordan, there you go. So Jordan Peterson, this is one of his kind of rules of life is like treat yourself as if you're under your own care. So you would treat yourself as if you were someone that was taking care of you, right? And if you're taking care of you, then you're going to do things that are in your best interest. But we many times have a tendency to, if it's just us, kind of give in to whatever we may be feeling in that moment. I'm tired. I don't have enough time, yada, yada, yada. But if you were taking care of someone else, you would probably find a way to make it happen if you were responsible for that other person's care. So just a little reframe and thought. If you are by yourself, people can have a tendency to like not take care of themselves as well. So that can be a reframe to help you take care of yourself better.
I'd also say there's a big thing about getting to cook for yourself, meaning you can eat what you want to eat. Like you're in charge of that destiny. You're not dealing with other people's preferences, their likes, their dislikes. Um, but I think one thing that people don't do when they just have themselves is they just have themselves. So they don't make a plan. So they have no idea what they're eating at any given meal or whatever. They're like, oh, well, I'll have whatever there is. But like, there isn't anything there if you didn't plan it, prep it, cook it, defrost it. So those are kind of the big ones, is like having a plan of what you're going to eat. So for a really long time, I ate chicken and rice with a vegetable for every meal because it was easy and I knew I didn't have to think about it. And I would buy the individual portioned chicken breast that I could pull one out and defrost it. And I could defrost it pretty quick for one person. And I would just eat that. I would season my chicken differently. I would add different sauces. I would add different stuff. And I would just toss whatever vegetable I wanted in there. And sometimes it would be raw and sometimes it would be cooked depending on what my mood was. But I knew that that's what I was going to eat. So there were always rice packets or rice that I was going to make and then divide out. There was always vegetables on hand for me to make the meal. And I always just bought the individual. Like I never bought chicken that I'd have to like take out of the package and put in individual baggies and then freeze. Like I always just bought the chicken breast that like come in individual ones because it was easy. So some of what you're going to do as being a person cooking for one is you're going to do some stuff for convenience. Individual portions of stuff like that like it just stores easier, freezes better, and then like comes back. Versus like, yeah, you could cook a whole entire thing of chicken, but I don't personally love defrosted chicken, like cooked, defrost, reheat. Like that's not my jam. I'd rather just cook a fresh one every single day. But for one person, like I could stick a chicken breast in my air fryer and cook it in less than 10 minutes. So there's a lot of simplicity that comes with one person. I can't feed Zach and I and just make chicken breast in the air fryer. There's not enough room.
Right. I like it. And I think the other thing too is finding a level of routine. Find those, and this really goes for if you're cooking for more too. Find the one or two breakfasts that you can make in your sleep. Find the 3 lunches that you can make in your sleep, or use dinners from the night before for your lunches the next day, and then find 5 to 7 meals, dinner type things that you can make in your sleep that are awesome, right? Like, so if we total it all up, you're looking at like, can you cook 10 to 12 different meals, right, over the course of everything, and like just get really good at doing those and be able to do them in your sleep and be able to find the correct portions and that kind of stuff, and you're going to be really successful. There's enough room for variety, but there's not so much variety that you end up not being very successful because you're either A, not making a choice, or B, like just spending way too much time. Unless you enjoy it, then cool, like cook away.
And then my other thing would be that it is going to be much easier for you to go out and get something to eat because you're one person and you're going to grab it and take out and go. I would only grab takeout for stuff that I actually can't make at home, or I can't make a curry recipe for one person. And if I wanted curry and that's what I was craving, I would go out and get really good curry. Because I think that's one of those recipes that's really hard to replicate and do very well for a one person. So it would be stuff like that, stuff that I can't do at home. I wouldn't be going out and grabbing a burger to go because I can make a single burger for myself. Like those would be kind of like, you could buy the big pack of the burger patties from Sam's or Costco or wherever, and you could pull one out and make a burger. Like you have a lot of easy ways you could do it. So I would pick special stuff to go out. I wouldn't be getting everyday things that I can eat and make at home or pretty close to it and remake. It would be those like very one-off occurrences of the things that I really want.
Like at the end of the day, I think it comes down to being intentional about what you're doing, right? If you're new to the process, planning more often, right? And taking time to quote unquote strategize. If you've been in the game for a while, you can get by with a little bit more quote unquote freedom and kind of making it up as you go. But you earn the right to make it up as you go by in the beginning putting in a little bit more work in order to learn and practice and get better at the skill of nutrition, which is a skill. This isn't something that is just like inherent, right? Like most skills, some people will pick it up faster than others, but the more we practice it, the more we're diligent about it, the better we get at it. So, which is kind of cool.
I agree.
That's it.
So really it comes down to having a plan and being intentional about following the plan. It's just like cooking for any other meal. It doesn't really make differences. It's just how you attack it and how you're looking at it. So anything else you got, Trev?
No, I think it's good. The other thing I may add to this with cooking for one is just like having some single serving like fruits or single serving veggies and that kind of stuff on hand, because those are always just easy on the go. That can just be chopped up and go. So, your apples or your pears or your baby carrots, those always work well. If you're in those pinch where I didn't really cook anything, I need a vegetable, cool, grab some baby carrots, or I need a fruit, grab an apple, and you're able to just throw it in without a whole lot of preparation. So, yeah,
Awesome.
I think it's good for today.
Well, guys, later.